Welcome to Reverent and Rebellious, a safe space for faith-based conversations on the things that nobody seems to want to talk about these days. We are reverent, we value truth, we elevate scripture, but we are also rebellious. We shatter myths and we destroy dogma, so jump in. Join us, Logan, Pat, and me, the brother Peter, as we get reverent and we get rebellious.
What's up, everybody?
Good evening.
What's up?
What's going on?
Oh, man. You know, everything's going on.
You're putting a little extra bass in your voice there.
It came naturally. I think I did a little extra hollering on Sunday.
My name's Peter.
Yes.
He's getting that October time, like October
right.
mood.
Yeah. Hey, baby.
This is Dr. Love.
Has anybody watched any good Halloween movies yet?
No, not yet.
I watched the Conjuring series.
Okay, the whole series?
Yeah.
Like Devil Made Me Do It and everything?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a huge fan of that one.
It was all right.
Yeah.
The first one was great. Second one was, third one was, okay, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We done watched The Lost Boys
Okay.
and then Dracula Dead and loving it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it Liam Neeson? Not Liam Neeson.
Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that one?
No, I have not.
Oh, you would enjoy it.
It's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
It sounds funny,
Look,
Yeah.
honestly.
I got so proud of Matt Miller. He come to my house and he was like, I think I can handle Friday the 13th. He's never seen him. And so it was Saturday night, right after the game. We got back from Drew and Norris and we're sitting there and it was getting late. And I was like, man, I'm tired. I got to go lay it down.
Yeah.
And I was kind of spying on him because he stayed the night. He was sleeping on my couch.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking through my bedroom window and I'm like, okay, he's still got the TV on. So and he sit there and he watched it by himself. I was proud of
The
him.
first one?
The second one.
Second one. Okay, with Jason.
Yeah.
Gotcha. He didn't get scared.
Yeah, me and Peyton watched Hocus Pocus last night.
Well, you got to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually seen that one.
You got to watch, before this Halloween's done, we got to get Dracula Dead and Loving It in there.
Yeah, that
Okay.
one.
It is good. It's Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
So, those are always good.
I feel like every year you have to at least watch Young Frankenstein.
Yep.
You have to watch Hocus Pocus.
Yep.
And then at least you got to pick one: A Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, or Friday the 13th. You got to watch one of those three.
I usually watch Halloween and Friday the 13th.
I watch them all.
Yeah.
But now you know what's going to happen. So how does that?
I don't know. It's just a nostalgia thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Sometimes I'll tell you a curveball I'll throw in there, and that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Man, I'm a slave to the streaming platforms because if you go on like Hulu, it's like Huluween. If you go on HBO Max, it's the No Sleep October or whatever. And I'm just kind of browsing through there. I'm like, I haven't watched that one in a while.
I want to know what y'all watch. I want to know.
They remade Salem's Lot.
I watched it.
Did you?
I did watch
yeah,
that.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
It was better than the old one.
Yeah, I agree. And
Yeah.
it wasn't 3 hours long.
I actually just finished listening to the book for the fourth time.
Yeah.
I love that book.
Yep.
Great book. Yeah, comment below. We want to know what's your go-to. What's some movies you watch? And while you're there doing that, you need to hit that like button, hit subscribe.
Yep.
And shoot it. No, seriously, shoot us some comments because we got a little dry this past week on
did.
our comments.
Let me read the YouTube comments. Oh, wait, I'm done.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is none.
Zero
Comments. We did get like one more review on Apple. So
That's good. We need 11 more
Yep.
on Apple, and we still need 12 more on Spotify.
Yep. We're
So,
going to harass y'all until you make it happen.
Drop what you're doing right now. Just pick up your phone. Just, get on the app and find our podcast and just review it.
Get your spouse's phone do it.
That'd be even better.
Yep.
Before we get into it, I got to know, Peter, what's your go-to Halloween movie?
I just don't have one. What's that Tim Burton movie? What's
Nightmare on Elm or Nightmare Before Christmas?
Yeah, I saw that one time
There you go,
around
yeah.
Halloween.
Okay.
He's like, what's the one movie about Halloween I've ever seen?
That's about it. Yeah. I just never, the whole scary movie thing. It's like I don't know. I just never.
It's not your thing.
It just never really. It's like life is very scary
This is
all by itself.
That's
Peter
true.
said my
true.
office.
Yeah,
It's my
exactly
favorite holiday.
right.
Yeah, when he hears
So-
a knock at the door. Yeah.
Yeah, and just last week was just screaming busy. It was just terrible. I had to go to a Presbyterian meeting on Saturday, and that took up my whole blooming day.
What time did you say
man.
you had to get up?
I had to leave my house at 6:30
That's
a.m.
so dumb.
I know. Leave my house at 6:30, and then had to sit through the whole meeting. Got back at about 5:45, and then had to go
wow.
right
You
to
were
my
there all
office
day.
all day, all blessed day.
Listen, viewers, Peter's brother had this philosophy,
Yes.
which I have adopted.
Love it.
Good friends do not call before 10 a.m.
That's it.
Let's take a moment to reflect on that. Please.
I
do
try
not-
to not even text y'all
Yeah.
before then.
I was gonna say, this side of the table, don't even talk to in the AM hours. Wait, when
Well-
it does that PM switch over, we're open.
I wasn't even really that aware that there were two 6:30s in one day. I just thought there was just one.
Just-
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love to be up and see the sunrise, and then I just
Go
go
to
to
bed.
bed. Yeah. So-
You're vampires.
Perfect ending to the night.
Yep.
No, I am a night owl. Everybody knows that by now. My
Yep.
brain turns on at about 9 p.m. and it works all night long, and that's when I get most of my work done.
Yeah.
So I like it. Everybody's in bed. It's quiet,
No one bothers
peaceful. Yeah. It's kind of nice and peaceful and quiet, like that blonde girl that was driving cross country. Did you ever hear about?
I haven't.
You hadn't heard about her?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, she was driving cross country, and she looked out in a field, and there was another blonde girl out there in a rowboat, just rowing away. And she got so mad, she got out of her car and she goes up to the fence. And she screams at this girl. She says, "What are you doing?" She says, "Well, I'm trying to get this boat back out to the road." And she says, it's girls like you that keep this stereotype going. She said, I'm blonde, you're blonde, and you're out there in a rowboat. And she said, you know what? If I could swim, I'd come out there and kick your butt.
I've knew where this was going. I've heard this one before. That's
She's
great.
in the water there.
That's one of my favorites. All right, here you go. I'm gonna jump in here.
Do it.
There's a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead walking down the road, and they come across these tracks. And one of them said, "Man, look at these rabbit tracks." And brunette says, "Those are not rabbit tracks. Those are deer tracks." And the blonde says, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? Those are." And about that time, they get hit by the train.
Oh, the poor blondes.
Yeah.
They're
I know.
the brunt of the joke.
I know, but it's the funny thing is that blonde is the most popular hair coloring.
That's true.
It's
Yeah.
like why? I don't know.
That's
I don't-
true.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
So it's so timestamp that 7:32. We finished banter.
Yes.
All right. So what are we talking about tonight?
All right, we are going to be in the last part of Revelation 2, and then we're going to cover all of chapter 3.
All right.
There are 4 more churches. We got into the first 3 last week, and we really were just kind of getting warmed up because a couple of these churches are really the best out of the bunch.
Yeah.
And my favorite one is the one that we're going to tackle first. But just to kind of reset this thing up, we saw how John started his letter with the greeting and all the stuff, and the first and the last and all the stuff, and then all of a sudden he says, "I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard the voice with a sound like a trumpet." And I turned to look at the voice, however that works. And he sees a vision of Jesus, and it is very, very symbolic. It's Jesus, not only as the Son of God, but as God. And he's got the hair with, he's the Ancient of Days,
Yep,
and Jesus
Ancient
all
of
wrapped
Days,
up into one. And so he talks about the lampstands, which are the churches, and the stars, which are the messengers to the churches. And he says, "Now write these messages to the angel of each church."
Mm-hmm.
And so we started out with Ephesus, and do you remember what Ephesus situation was?
The first love.
Yeah, they did all sorts of good stuff. They lost their first love, and then we moved on to, what did we do next? Smyrna.
And they were good.
Smyrna was doing good. Yes, they were dealing with those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. They were being persecuted by their own people, and so that was their their deal. They didn't get any negatives. Then we got to Pergamum.
They got hammered.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
just a little
they
bit.
got the O sugars.
They sure did. They were holding. Some there in their midst were holding the teaching of Balaam, and committing acts of immorality and sacrificing to idols, and the Nicolaitans. We got all that stuff, and at each one of these, the pattern with each one of these letters, you see Jesus coming, displaying an attribute in the vision, and then ends up with he who overcomes. And
the Lord for Smyrna said, "You better handle this, or I will make war with them."
I will make war with them. Yes, that was Pergamum. Yeah.
Yep.
And then he says, "To him who overcomes, I'll give some of the hidden manna, white stone, and a new name." And that we sort of discussed all of that stuff, and it's really cool. So now,
hey, before you get into that, we do need to mention one thing.
Go ahead.
Mention definitely our prayers for Florida. My gosh, have you seen this hurricane that's coming their way?
It is absolutely brutal.
I wanted to read this real quick. I meant to do this at the beginning, sorry. This is one snippet of banner right here. This is from a meteorologist. A buddy sent me this. This is nothing short of astronomical. I am at a loss for words to meteorologically describe to you 897 MB pressure. So that's how much, I guess, the pressure of the storm, with 180 mile per hour max sustained winds and gusts up to 225 miles an hour. This is now the second strongest hurricane ever recorded by pressure on this side of the world. The eye is tiny at nearly 3.8 miles wide, yet this hurricane is nearing the mathematical limit of what Earth's atmosphere can produce.
That's wild.
Is that not insane?
That's wild.
Wow.
Now, I just had to read that. I was like, man, that's crazy. 200, can you imagine 225 mile per hour gusts of wind?
No. It gets up to 50 and I'm going like, man, I got to go inside.
Yeah. So definitely be praying and thanking for them. I think it's supposed to hit tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or the next day?
Tonight, ain't it?
Is it tonight?
It might be tonight.
Yeah.
But I did read that as fast as it grows, it's supposed to dissipate just as fast.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's like it's going to be like a sledgehammer. Hit it and then
That's
gone.
it.
Yeah. Man.
To him who overcomes, I will give a bag of Fritos and a nice soft pillow.
Yeah.
If you make it through that one.
And I usually don't get political too, but did you see where there's no money to send to them?
I did.
There's no money to send to the people in Florida.
Wow.
I did. Yeah, because it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
A lot of churches have been showing out.
I was just going to say that, but that also pleases me because almost 100% of everything that they've gotten have been from churches.
And honestly, that's what we're supposed to do.
That's right.
That's exactly what we're supposed to do.
Yep.
So thank all of y'all who brought the donations to the church.
And
there you go.
We had 2 big trailer loads go out, and we're gonna do some more.
Yep.
We're not gonna stop now.
So there you go, guys. So speaking of apocalyptic storms,
I was just gonna say that. That sounds very apocalyptic.
Way to segue.
Yeah, that was the 8th seal.
yes, yeah.
7 wasn't enough. We had to go one more.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
If you are pinned down with no internet, then you need to download the episodes early.
That's it.
So you can be listening.
Stop it.
Go ahead and do your review now.
Yes. You're not going to have service. Yeah. Your phone might be obliterated.
That's exactly right.
If you don't laugh, you cry. You got to make humor of this situation.
I'll tell you what. That's crazy. So
Thyatira.
We're going to get to Thyatira. Yes. And so I just want to read through this real quick, and we'll kind of try to make some sense of it. He says, to the angel of the church in Thyatira write, the Son of God, capital S, capital G, who has eyes like a flame of fire and his feet are like burnished bronze, says this. Now, we saw some of the attributes that were stated at the beginning of the other letters. What do you think he means by this? Why signal this?
Well, earlier in the previous ways, didn't he also have eyes like flame of fire?
Well, that was in the vision where he had the eyes like flames of fire. But in like to Pergamum, it's the one who has the sharp 2-edged sword. And we know what that's about because Pergamum was all about compromising with the truth.
I was gonna say it's got to be relevant to their situation or their sins,
Exactly.
I guess, kind of thing.
Well, this is a callback to the way he described them in Daniel, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and this is a judgment situation, like a court situation.
Well, and it refers right back to the vision, you know. But the one that always interested me was the burnished bronze. That's from Daniel 10. It's also from the vision in chapter 1. Now, I always thought, well, you know, it's kind of pictorial. You kind of get the idea that there's, you know, stability and solid and, you know, all this stuff. So I dug into it just a little bit, and it was actually quite interesting.
Okay.
There's this word that's only used 2 times in the New Testament, and that's in Revelation 1 and Revelation 3 or 2. Yeah. It's chalkolubanan. It's the weirdest
Is that
word.
for burnished or something?
That's what it's talking about, this burnished bronze. And it is a high quality, precious yellow metal.
Oh, okay.
And it says possibly electrum. Do you know what electrum is? I have no idea. No, but it was right. It was right there, like I was supposed to know what that was.
I spent several years as a machinist. Never heard that one.
Okay, well, it's a high quality, precious yellow metal.
Okay,
and it's able. You can polish it to where it literally gleams, like glass. I mean,
did you Google it? Electrum?
No,
That's
not
what
electrum.
I'm doing now.
I was gonna say, I want to know what this looks like.
So it's gleaming. It's super shiny, glossy.
It's a natural occurring alloy of gold and silver.
Okay.
With trace amounts of copper.
Wow. So there you go. It's possibly electrum. High quality precious yellow metal. It
looks like gold.
Signifies power and authority, the ability to destroy and judge evil.
Okay.
So this one little article that I read said that it was there were basically 3 components, and so it is strength and judgment with the ability to crush the enemies under these burnished bronze.
This sounds like a bad one for them to be getting reference to.
We're getting there. Yes, that's exactly right. Then there is also, it's symbolic of refinement through fire.
Okay.
It's been heated and then it's been polished, symbolic of the suffering and the sacrifice of Jesus, the death and the resurrection.
Gotcha.
So it's perfected in suffering and tribulation.
Yeah.
And then the third component of this symbolically is unwavering presence. So these are solid, unmoving feet, steadfast. You know,
so you were right there.
Yeah, exactly. And reliability in chaos. So it's like your rock to hang on to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the burnished bronze. And we know that the eyes like a flame of fire. He sees and is able to accurately judge everything.
Electrum was also used to coat the tops of the capstones of pyramids.
Well, how about that? How about that? Okay, so the Son of God, who has eyes like flames of fire and his feet are like burnished bronze, says this: I know your deeds and your love and faith and servants and perseverance, and that your deeds of late are greater than at first. So you read that verse and you
Sounds
think,
good.
Yeah. So think about a church situation. Hey man, your church is growing. Man, I mean, you're killing it. You got to go to 2 services, and you got the buses running. You got and
worship teams on point.
Yeah, the stuff you're doing now is better than what you did at first. Yeah, but this is
sugar.
This is crazy too. He says, "But I have this against you, that you tolerate the woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, and she teaches and leads my bondservants astray, so that they commit acts of immorality and eat things sacrificed to idols."
Well, that does not sound good.
Okay, so Pat, is this a person or a symbol?
It's a symbol. It's a spirit of Jezebel.
I think it is too. It doesn't say that.
That's what I believe.
Would it be demonic?
Actually, I think I really believe that it is. I think it's probably one of the powers and authorities. You know, because and it's sort of personified, or it acts like Jezebel, and so that kind of makes us need to go back to First Kings.
And Jezebel was what, a Phoenician, and what?
Yeah, she was the daughter of a Sidonian king.
So she was Sidon-Phoenician.
Yeah, you remember Tyre and Sidon, right? Okay, so really, there was some dark spirit stuff going on in Tyre and Sidon. So if we go over to 1 Kings 16, 31 through 33, we see Jezebel. It says it came about as though it had been a trivial thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the sons of Naboth. This is talking about Ahab. That's her husband. Ahab married Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians. He's got Baal in his name. King of the Sidonians, and went to serve Baal and worshipped him. So he erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. And Ahab also made the Asherah. Thus Ahab did more to provoke the Lord God of Israel than all the kings of Israel who were before him. So yeah, we're off on a good foot now.
Yeah.
Okay, so then if you run over to 1 Kings 21, in 1 Kings 21 we have this sort of iconic episode. And so what happens, I'm just going to summarize a little bit for you, that there was a guy named Naboth, and he was from Jezreel. Jezreel was one of the capital cities there. It's where the palace was. And this guy Naboth had a vineyard. It was beside the palace of King Ahab. And Ahab wanted this vineyard. He wanted to make a garden, like a vegetable garden next to my palace.
Yeah.
And do you know why he wanted a garden next to his palace?
Because it was close.
It was, but also it was a thing for all the Egyptian kings and princes to have gardens right next to their palaces.
So he was keeping up with the Joneses.
That's it. That's exactly it. I don't think he cared two flips about a garden. He can have whatever he wants, you know. Yeah. It's like, now I got to look like those Egyptian kings. So he says, he starts out kind of being fair. He goes, hey, give me your vineyard, and I will give you a better vineyard. Or if you like, I'll give you the price of it in money. But Ahab also knows that there's a law of God that says if you inherit a piece of property, you never sell it.
Oh,
you only keep it in your family. And so Naboth says, I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers. So Ahab goes back to his room and pouts. Literally. It says
sullen.
He laid down on his bed, turned away his face, and ate no food.
This is a grown man.
Yeah, exactly. So Jezebel comes. She says, why is your spirit so down and you are not eating food? And he tells her the whole story. And she says, do you now reign over Israel? And the answer is no. Jezebel actually rules over Israel. She says, arise, eat bread, let your heart be joyful. I will give you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So here's what she did. And now she is somewhat low-key aware of the Jewish law as well.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't just, go in with guns ablazing. She wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal, sent letters to the elders and to the nobles who were living in the same city as Naboth. And then she wrote in the letters, proclaim a fast, seat Naboth at the head of the table, and seat two worthless men before him and let them testify against him, saying, you cursed God and the king. Okay, so the law is you have to have two witnesses.
Yeah.
So she says, give me two guys that will say anything.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. They took him out and they stoned him to death.
Golly.
Yeah. And so then she gets back to it's how it all works out. And she comes back to Ahab. Ahab has no idea she did this. She says, hey, Naboth is dead. He's like, really? Yeah, he's dead. So you can go ahead and go ahead and go get his vineyard. Well, then the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And it says, go to meet Ahab, who is in Samaria. He's in the vineyard of Naboth, where he has gone down to take possession of it. And you'll speak to him, saying, thus says the Lord, have you murdered and also taken possession? And then you shall say, in the place where the dogs licked up the blood of Naboth, the dogs shall lick up your blood, even yours.
Nice.
And Ahab says, have you found me, O my enemy? And he says, Elijah says, I have found you because you have sold yourself to do evil in the sight of the Lord. I will bring evil upon you. I will utterly sweep you away and will cut off from Ahab every male, both bond and free in Israel. And he just goes on. He is riffing. He's prophesying. And so Ahab is like, this is a gut punch to him. And so he puts sackcloth and ashes and he repents. And so at the end of this chapter, the word of the Lord came to Elijah and said, do you see how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring the evil in his days, but I will bring the evil upon his house in his son's days. It's like, thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, so then you just fast forward. And you fast forward to 2 Kings 9, and you get to, let's see, the first part of chapter 9. And this is this is hilarious. Think Andy Griffith Show, Mayberry. Think Goober and all that. Okay, so he calls Elisha the prophet. This is Elisha now. Elijah's gone, and he said, "Gird up your loins, take this flask of oil in your hand, and go to Ramoth Gilead. And then when you arrive there, search out Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat. Go in and bid him arise from his brothers and bring him to an inner room. Take the flask of oil, pour it on his head, and says, 'Thus says the Lord, I have anointed you king over Israel.' Then open the door and flee and do not wait." So that's exactly what he does. He comes in, and the captain of the army were sitting around. He says, "I have a word for you, O captain." Jehu says, "For which one of us?" And he says, "For you." So he goes into the house and he pours the oil on his head. And he says, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I have anointed you king over the people of the Lord, even over Israel, and you shall strike the house of Ahab your master, that I may avenge the blood of my servants the prophets and the blood of all the servants of the Lord at the hand of Jezebel." And he says, he goes on and prophesies for a little while longer. "I'll make the house of Ahab like the house of Jeroboam," and so on and so forth. "And the dogs shall eat Jezebel in the territory of Jezreel, and none shall bury her." And he opens the door and leaves.
And runs, runs
You're
away.
king now, and you got to go to Ahab, destroy his house, and leave Jezebel for the dogs.
What does he do if he looks back and the dude's running after him? Like, wait!
But here's the funny thing: it tells what happens next, and he says, Jehu came out to the servants of his master, and one said to him, "Is all well?" And he says, "Why did this mad fellow come to you?" And he said to them, "You know very well the man and his talk." And they said, "It's a lie. Tell us now." And he said, "Thus and thus he said to me, 'Thus says the Lord, I have anointed you king over Israel.' And they hurried, and each man took his garment and placed it under him on the bare steps and blew the trumpet, saying, 'Jehu is king.'"
Thus and thus.
It's like, golly, you got to be king. Yeah. Okay, so then you get to the end of the chapter. All this stuff goes down, and this is my favorite part because Jehu comes to Jezreel.
Hey, do y'all smell our skunk?
Yes.
You smell that, Pat?
Is that what that is?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we got a skunk that keeps coming around.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if I was the only one smelling that.
No, I
We need smell-o-rama for our listeners.
well, see, it fits well with the passage.
It does.
The story. Because Jehu's now coming to Jezreel, where Jezebel is. He's going to take care of business, right? It says, when she heard he was coming, she painted her eyes and adorned her head and looked out the window. So she
smelled him coming.
Smelled him coming. That's exactly right. She says, "Is it well, your master's murderer?" Because he had already taken care of Ahab.
Yeah.
And he says, "Who is on my side?" "Who?" He looks out the window. And he said, "Throw her down." So they threw her down, and some of her blood was sprinkled on the wall and on the horses, and he trampled her underfoot.
Nice.
When he came in, he ate and drank, and he said, "See now to this cursed woman and bury her, for she is a king's daughter." And they went to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull and the feet and the palms of her hands.
Wow.
The palms of her hands. That's an interesting.
It's wild, isn't it?
That
Yeah.
is.
Therefore they returned and told him, and he said, "This is the word of the Lord, which he spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, in the property of Jezreel the dogs shall eat the flesh of Jezebel. Wow. And the corpse of Jezebel shall be as dung on the face of the field in the property of Jezreel, so that they cannot say, 'This is Jezebel.'"
Now that's quite graphic.
It is quite graphic. Yes, it is. It's kind of perfect for the Halloween vibe, don't you think?
It is.
Yeah.
All you see is the skull and the feet and the palms of the hands.
I'm just imagining the palms of the hands. How do you find that? Do they see what they're like? What is it? A sheet of paper on the ground? They flip it over and it's like, that's somebody's palms.
I like that Elisha's just said, "I didn't recognize you without all that poop on your face."
Yes,
all
exactly.
that scuba line.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went down all that rabbit trail to give you an idea. Now, we talked about the spirit of Balaam, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was deception for money. You know, it's like this is much more loaded than that.
Yeah.
And so you think about Jezebel, and it says that she calls herself a prophetess, and she teaches and leads my bondservants astray. That actually is seduces.
Mm-hmm.
She seduces my people so that they will commit acts of immorality and eat things sacrificed to idols. So
Yeah.
basically, this is a spirit of ambition, conquest, and success at any cost kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what he's really angling for here in this little section is there's a spirit inside the church that, we talked about the trade guilds and all this stuff. This little city of Thyatira was in an area noted for its abundant crops and the manufacture of purple dye. So it supplied a lot of things to the surrounding cities. And so there were these trade guilds. And we talked about how trade guilds were like a worship service, and you had to eat the food and you had to sacrifice to the idols, and you had to have sex with all the prostitutes in the temple and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So they're going like, hey, you got to eat, you got to make a living. And so, they just sort of put a blanket stamp of approval on this stuff. That it was, you just got to do what you got to do.
It is what it is. Yeah,
exactly. And it's really corrupting the church from the inside out. It's the spirit of Jezebel.
I feel like that's like the churches today being like, hey, it is what it is. Yeah. We got to do what we got to do to reach people,
Oh, man. If I hear that one more time.
Hey, Peter, we got to do what we got to do to reach people.
Yeah. Okay. Spirit of Jezebel.
He punches me out of the chair. I fall over.
So Jezebel, in her time, sought to exterminate the prophets. She installed the worship of Baal in the capital cities, 2 giant sanctuaries, Samaria and Jezreel. And so this is kind of what this, if you just kind of imagine that, I need to be prominent. I need to keep my position, everything else like that. It was a total, absolute, it was an absolute compromise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Eating things sacrificed to the idols means in the presence of idols. That means you're there, you're participating in the whole thing.
Yep. Gotcha.
So here's the punishment. He says, behold, I will cast her upon a bed of sickness. And those who commit adultery with her into great tribulation, unless they repent of her deeds. Okay, so in the original language, it says, behold, I will cast her upon a bed, and those who commit adultery. It's kind of like, maybe you could say sick bed.
Yeah.
But maybe you're just going to,
take a nap.
Leave her to her own devices.
Yeah.
And those who commit adultery with her into great tribulation. And then it says, I will kill her children with pestilence. Mm-hmm. How about that? Kill her children. That means that all of her little minions and followers and those who have completely bought into this thing and been saturated with it are going to go down with her.
Yep.
Yeah.
And all the churches will know. I'm going to set an example of you guys. All the churches will know that I am he who searches the mind and hearts, and I will give to each one of you according to your deeds. That you're going to know.
Yep.
Now you know. Okay, so the next half of the letter, though, then says, but I say to you, the rest who are in Thyatira, who do not hold this teaching, my favorite line, who have not known the deep things of Satan.
The deep things of Satan.
What do you think that is?
The desires.
Yeah.
The satanic will, and following it and doing it.
It's kind of like the difference between messing around with an Ouija board and actually going to the satanic rituals, and it's like what's behind the curtain.
Yeah, I'm in this.
Like you ain't dabbling at this point.
Yeah.
You're fully in.
That's it. Deep things of Satan, as they call them.
Yeah.
Those who
he
don't
says,
know
I just calls them like I sees them.
That's it. He says, I place no other burden on you because you have not gone after the deep things of Satan.
Yeah.
You may have, skated around a little bit, but, you're okay. He says, nevertheless, what you have, hold fast till I come. And he who overcomes, here's the promise at the end. He who overcomes and he who keeps my deeds until the end, here's the cool part. To him I will give authority over the nations, and he shall rule them with the rod of iron, as the vessels of the potter are broken to pieces, as I also have received authority from my Father.
Why is it all caps? My Bible, like here on my Bible app, it's like my deeds until the end, and then it's like all caps for the next 2 verses.
Yep.
Why did they do that? Because
it's an Old Testament quote.
Okay, gotcha.
Every time it's in all caps, it means they're quoting the Old Testament. And this happens to be Isaiah 30:14. And Isaiah 30:14 says this. I got my little bookmarks here. Isaiah 30.
Potter's jar.
Yep. Go ahead and read it.
30:14.
Yeah.
whose collapse is like the smashing of the potter's jar, so ruthlessly shattered that a shard will not be found among its pieces, to take fire from the hearth or to scoop water from a cistern.
So it is the idea of destroying the enemies.
Yep.
Yeah.
This word rule with the rod of iron is actually the word shepherd.
Okay.
So I'll give authority over him to the nations, and he shall shepherd them with the rod of iron and break the vessels that would come against him. That's the idea. Once again, quoting that old prophecy to, kind of shine light on the prophecy as well. This is the idea of co-rulership with Christ. And this is kind of one of the first little inklings we get of it, that the idea in the new Jerusalem, the new heavens, the new earth, is that that we will have an exalted position of co-rulership, partnership with Jesus. And he says, this is what will happen. There'll be no enemy that will stand before you. You will rule with me if you overcome. And then he says, I will give him the morning star. The morning star is it's kind of a code word a little bit, but the morning star in Rome was Venus. Okay. Venus would appear, the planet, it would come out, and they assumed it was a star, but it was a planet. But it symbolized victory and sovereignty. I'll give him victory. I'll give him sovereignty.
Okay.
But it's also symbolic of the Messiah. We'll see this again in Revelation 22:16, where Jesus says, I am the bright and morning star.
Yep.
It's the whole thing. There's a little more behind the whole concept, but you have to go down a pretty long rabbit hole to get there.
Yeah.
But also, the image of his face shining like the sun. That goes right in there with it. That Jesus is the morning star. He'll give you the morning star. You'll So anyway, so what do you think about Thyatira?
Sounds like they need to get the old Jezebel out of there.
Absolutely.
Get the Jezebel out of there.
And it will cost them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's what it makes sense after, again, why he used he who has eyes like a flame of fire and his feet are like burnished bronze. After you go through kind of what that means, you see how it applies in the situation.
I ain't going to play around with this.
And I want to double down too on this is a spirit of Jezebel. It's not an actual person they're trying to
there's
out. It's a behavior, it's a belief, it's a motive.
There's a member in the congregation and he's reading the letter and he's like, Jezebel, you.
It's like, I've been married to her for 40 years. No, it is. They are tolerating this whole attitude and approach that we don't have to give up anything to be Christians.
That'll preach.
And that's the same, man. That just seems so applicable to today. And that's a weird word to say.
We always take that too as, okay, I got to give up this pet sin. And really it's a behavior. It's a belief. It's a motive.
Yeah.
We have to give up this. I'm not in charge. I don't participate in things of my own lustful desires or go along to get along. Like I'm under submission of Christ.
Yeah.
Well, and you get the whole thing is like, okay, so would it be okay for a Christian to own a casino?
Right.
Yeah.
Or a liquor store, or a CBD store,
dispensary.
I mean, and
I didn't know where you were going with the next.
But I mean, strip club. I don't know.
I was going to say an adult film store.
Now you're talking about Logan. We all know he owns a strip club.
Well, I wear those loud shirts sometimes.
But and the answer is, honestly, it comes down to a matter of conviction.
Yeah.
There's probably some that are in more gray areas than others. Some are a little more.
I feel like if a man owns a strip joint and he's like, I don't feel any conviction.
He's a liar.
I'm just out there witnessing.
He's like, we're just witnessing. Yeah.
No, I don't think, but yeah, this is kind of the place they were in. It's like, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want my business to go down. And so I'll just go and it's like, that it's wrong and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know how wrong it is.
Yeah.
And, it's like, you can't just go and worship another God and then claim to belong to Jesus. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Thyatira. That's the place that they're in. And so then we're going to move on to Sardis,
where all y'all like to go fishing.
Yeah.
And Sardis is at the beginning of chapter 3. It says, and to the angel of the church in Sardis write, he who has the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars.
Uh-oh.
That already makes me nervous for him.
You're sitting there in Sardis in the church house. How do you feel right now?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This is divine numbers.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling a little nervous right now. If we kind of look at just a little backdrop to
Look, and the way that all these have gone, if I was sitting here, if it said to the angel of the church, like, he who is the God of flowers, I'd be nervous. I'd still be nervous. I'd be like, I've done heard how this goes.
After they got to these first few churches, do you think people at Sardis were like, hey, man, let's go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Let's slide out there in this.
Yes.
Well, and just to give you a little backdrop on Sardis, it had an illustrious past, very proud of its past, but it had been in severe decline. The capital of the ancient kingdom of Lydia. Oh, speaking of Thyatira, that's where Lydia comes from.
Really?
Yeah. Paul met her there.
Okay.
Or met her actually in Philippi, but she was from Thyatira.
Gotcha.
Probably
All
on
right.
a business trip.
Yeah.
Selling purple dye.
Yep. Selling purple dye. So,
Okay.
Sardis reached the peak of its wealth about 700 BC under Gigas, known to the Assyrians as Gugu. I can't make it
Gigas
up.
Goo Goo.
I'd rather be Gigas than I would Goo Goo.
I know, but the Jews called this king Gog. You might have heard of Gog.
Gigas, Goo Goo, and Gog.
Yeah.
It sounds like baby talk.
Giga Goo Goo guy.
He was thought of as symbolic
Oh,
of
we're
evil
idiots.
powers to arise at the end of the age. He was slain in a surprise attack by the Cimmerians. So the city sank into. And the Persians came in. They had no king. They conquest, and then they had
Is Sardis
this.
the one that was on the cliff?
Yeah, they had a major earthquake.
Yeah.
And it pretty much destroyed the whole city. Tiberius rebuilt the city in AD 17. So you think about 700 BC and then 17 AD.
Jeez.
It was a wasteland for a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, the church in Sardis reflected the history of Sardis because once it had a name for spiritual achievement, but now it was lifeless. So this is what he's going to talk about. And also, Sardis was built on a mountain, had an acropolis, which was viewed as impregnable, unable to be conquered. They
It
were
was
very proud of
invaded
it.
twice, right?
5 times.
Oh, it's 5 times.
Good grief.
5 times it was breached. Twice through lack of vigilance. They just weren't paying
Yeah,
attention.
same method
Yeah.
over and over.
They were on their phones.
Okay, so it was also a center for woolen goods. And so that'll come into play as well. So it says, it has the 7 spirits of God and 7 stars, says this. I know your deeds, that you have a name, that you are alive, but you are dead.
Ooh, that's a kick to the gonads right there, ain't it?
Yeah.
You are dead.
Yeah, but you know what's funny though? I talk about this all the time. It says you have a name for being alive. You're living in the past.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what
That's
I mean?
their
It's-
Uncle
it's like,
Rico.
Yeah.
Back in high school, I did this, blah,
Yeah.
blah. What are you doing today? You're dead.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're dead.
They have they self-identify.
Yep.
We're still, it's like,
They're like, 10 years ago, we had 12 people come up to the altar during altar call.
Exactly
Well,
right.
how
We are a
does-
spiritual church.
What's the first 2 things, these first 2 words in verse 2? Wake up.
See, there you go.
Yes.
Wake up.
Wake up.
That's
You're
the whole
dreaming,
thing.
bud.
Yep.
It's like I used to say, I really, I feel sorry for people that never gain weight in their life
Yeah.
because they can always wear the same clothes they wore 30 years ago. You need to plump up and then shrink back down
I've
again a couple
noticed
of
some
times.
of my shorts and stuff have been shrinking.
Really?
Yeah.
You
that's
might
what,
be drying them at too high a
That's what
temperature.
I'm thinking. They got to be drying
it's,
too high.
It's scientifically proven your shorts will shrink as your age goes up.
It's true.
There you go.
It's
Okay.
absolutely
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
It's balance. It's math.
That's what I've
cloth
told
doesn't
Marcy.
Age well, yeah.
I'm like, I'm not getting bigger. These pants are getting
Yes,
small.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so that's exactly what he says. Wake up. Wake up. Pay attention.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're living in fairy tale land.
yeah, and your big impregnable wall has been breached, and you don't even know it. Yeah,
Would this fall into the lukewarm category? Is that what you would call that?
Actually,
Kinda.
Or are they just
honestly, no. They just are fooling themselves. They're living in an illusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantasy world.
Uh-huh.
cold?
And so he says, wake up and strengthen the things that remain. In other words, he's taking, okay, it's time for some self-reflection.
Yeah.
It's time for, let's look at what really is.
Yeah.
Is that wood paneling really in fashion?
Yeah.
I mean, does the green carpet really look good?
Right.
It's like, no, be honest with yourselves.
Yeah.
And let's not say that we have, this happens all the time. We are one of the largest churches in our denomination. We have 700 members. Oh, how many come to church every Sunday? Oh, about 60.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the rest are on the on the
They're
roll.
on the
man.
roll.
Yeah.
Are strictly hymnals the best idea?
Yeah. Well,
It's like, come on, like we're growing. We need to, let's build this.
So he says, let's look at what we really have.
Yeah. Let's build it.
Strengthen the things that remain, which were about to die, by the way.
Yeah.
He says, for I have not found your deeds completed in the sight of my God. You're trying in one area. You're not even trying in another area.
Yeah.
You've just, everything, you haven't followed through on anything.
Yep.
It's all incomplete.
It's a good idea.
And here's some interesting language here that he says. He says, remember, therefore, what you have received and heard. Remember that message that was preached to you called the gospel? Yeah, remember that. And he says, keep it and repent. If, therefore, you will not wake up, I will come like a thief, and you will not know at what hour I will come upon you. Now, first of all, that's the way the wall got breached in the first place.
Right.
They weren't paying attention and somebody came like a thief. He said, that's going to happen again, only it's going to be me this time. So Matthew 24:43, get that one.
All right.
And you get 1 Thessalonians 5:2.
Matthew 24, what?
43.
I know this one. I already know this is going to be the second coming.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
5:2.
All right. But be sure this, that in the head of the house had known at the time. Okay. But be sure this, if the head of the house had known at what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have been on the alert and would not have allowed his house to be broken into. For this reason, you must also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour who will do not think he will.
It is. And yours says?
For you yourselves know full well that the day of the Lord will come, just like a thief in the night.
Why is it?
And this is about his second coming.
Yep.
And that's what it is here too. He says, if you don't wake up, I'm going to be here, and you're not. You're
going to be asleep at the wheel.
I love in Matthew. He says, when you don't think he will.
Yeah.
When you don't think he's coming, is when he's going to come.
And we see this again in Revelation 16, verse 15. He says, behold, I am coming like a thief. Blessed is the one who stays awake and keeps his garments, lest he walk about naked and men see his shame.
Yeah.
There you go. So you've been walking around naked.
Shame.
But then he says, but you have a few people in Sardis.
This is an interesting line to me.
I know it is. It is.
A few.
Who have
There's
not
a few of you.
who have not soiled their garments.
They have not pooped their pants yet.
Exactly.
And they will walk with him in white that is not stained brown.
Yes. And here's an interesting thing.
Contaminate, defile.
Yeah. We see this image of this white. We see white all the way through.
Yeah.
In fact, this word for white is used 26 times in the New Testament. 16 of those are in Revelation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
And of the 16, 8 are concerning clothing. We see angels wearing white, saints wearing white. Jesus' robe is white. And then the 8 others are refer to some aspect of the heavenly realm. So this holiness, it's purity.
So no more about his hair being white in this.
No, the only one was in the first chapter.
Okay.
To establish his identity.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy that the word is leukos.
Really?
It's where we get our word leukoplakia, and it's white spots in the mouth. It's medical.
Oh, that's weird.
That's what I thought. It's exactly what I was thinking.
We also get this idea in this next little bit. He says, they will walk with me in white. Now, don't miss walk with me, because that phrase was used of Enoch and Noah. And Enoch didn't die. He was translated to heaven.
Yeah.
And Noah was chosen out of everybody to restart the human race. Because why? He says, because they walked with the Lord.
Yep.
They walked with God. This is the same kind of idea here. He says, a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their garments, they have not gone all the way down those rabbit trails, and they will walk with me in white, for they are worthy. And then he says, white again. He says, he who overcomes shall thus be clothed in white garments. And once again, this is an idea of membership, belonging. This is co-rulership. You be one of the saints. You be, but then it says, and I will not erase his name from the book of life.
Does that mean he's erasing folks' names?
Absolutely.
See, that's
so. Can you lose your salvation?
I don't know. Basically, the way I see that is, if you can lose your salvation, then you never really had it to begin with.
But if your name was there to erase, doesn't that mean you had it?
Yeah, kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah, because if you never had it, why would your name have ever been there?
Kind of makes you think about that a little bit.
It does.
It? Yeah.
Well, if you had it, would you soil your garments?
Well,
depends on the day.
Depends on the pizza.
What did I have for lunch that day?
Again, though, it's somebody you haven't went all the way down the rabbit hole. We know we mess up as believers.
Yeah.
But do you completely buy into this stuff?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, honestly, I'm going to read something in a little bit that's going to cause us to even think a little bit more. Yeah, I know. But for now, we'll go back to Daniel, and he says, in Daniel 11:35, it's part of his vision and everything. And he says, and some of those who have insight will fall in order to refine, purge, and make them white until the end time, because it is still to come at the appointed time. And then he talks a little bit about this figure, this king that will exalt himself above every man and every god and everything else like that. But then he says in chapter 12, verse 1. He says that now at that time, Michael, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise. There will be a time of distress such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who was found written in the book, will be rescued. So here we get this idea of the book. And then he says in verse 10, many will be purged, made white and refined, but the wicked will act wickedly, and none of the wicked will understand, but those who have insight will understand. So this is the same kind of idea here, is that you can, those who get with the program will be made white, and their names will be in a book. But here he says, I know, I will not erase his name from now. Maybe it says, I don't know. There's a couple of different ways you can look at it. Maybe it means that your name will be put there to begin with, never to be erased.
So you were elected.
Yeah. Elected.
Or is it that everybody's name is written?
Well, that's kind of what I'm wondering.
And on the people who believe stay in.
That was what I was just kind of thinking. I'm like, maybe it means you're already there.
Yeah.
Because the book of life insinuates that it's everyone with a living, breathing soul.
Well, and to take this, to make the cogs in my brain turn even a little more, would you say that we believe that if an infant dies, he goes to heaven?
Absolutely.
Or it goes to heaven?
Yeah.
Okay. See, then to me, their name is there from the start.
It would be.
Yep. See, that's kind of where I land with it, but it's speculation.
But you can't be an unsaved adult with full knowledge of everything and have your name in the book.
Yeah, then you
that's true. Erased. Your name would already be erased.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like,
that's tricky.
It's very tricky.
Because then I'm also thinking back to my buddy that time years ago that was like, if the missionaries never would go to the Indians,
I know.
they'd go to heaven.
Sending them to hell.
They'd go to heaven through ignorance.
I mean, there's so many passages about I will not blot out your name in the book of life, or the Lamb's book. I will not erase your name. I will not blot out your name. And so that tells me that everyone's name is in it.
Yeah.
But at least this is just Pat's view. I don't have a ground to stand on. It's just my belief that I think everyone's in it. And at time of judgment, if you are not saved, that's when you get removed from the book.
Or are you in it, and then when you reach the age of accountability, whatever that may be for said person.
God says, nope, it's time to, you just turned 13.
Yeah.
It's time to take your name out.
That just feels like too extra for me. God's like, we'll white out in case, in case that you come back later.
Yeah. But that's what I'm like, man. So because I'm an infant to heaven kind of guy.
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm like, but again, I like, if you kind of follow this hard line, then it's like, well, but then it is almost like a salvation through ignorance type thing. And it's like, well, that's not how it works, though.
The final judgment hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And so, like, the book hasn't even been opened yet for us to be judged.
Yeah.
So I think that's when the blotted out.
But if you die and you're like in the waiting area, whatever, like, do you think, I mean, how do you mess up at that point to get your name out of the book?
Well, I mean, once you die, it's over, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So
you're just waiting at that point to get erased or to get approved.
But see, wouldn't you already be erased?
You'd already be erased.
Yeah.
Because your name wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But don't the dead still have to stand judgment?
Yeah, they do. But it's just a formality.
Yeah.
So
he's just like, loser.
Yeah.
And like sends them down.
So that's what Jesus is waiting on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
This is interesting. You can really go down.
I know. I'm going to mess you up even further.
Uh-oh.
Exodus 32:31. Then Moses returned to the Lord and said, Alas, this people has committed a great sin, and they have made a god of gold for themselves. Mm-hmm. But now, if you will, forgive their sin, and if not, please blot me out from your book which you have written.
So there it is again.
Yeah. Please rescind my salvation. And the Lord said to Moses, Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot him out of my book. But go now, lead the people where I told you. So on and so forth.
So you could lose your salvation.
Oh, well,
this is Old Testament, though.
Yeah.
Well, you don't understand salvation the same way.
That's right.
In the Old Testament. Yeah. So there you go. We're going to hold off on final judgment on that one.
Yeah.
Comment what you think.
Yeah.
Comment or shoot us an email on what you think.
So we're going to hold off on final judgment on the final judgment.
On the final judgment until we get to the next. Yeah, we got two more churches to get to.
We're not erasing their name yet.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. But he says that I will not erase his name from the book of life. I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Mm-hmm. And that goes to Matthew 10:32. Somebody get that one.
I got it. Matthew 10:32. All right. Well, I had it. Here we go. Okay. Therefore, everyone who confesses me before men, I will also confess him before my Father who is in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does it say anywhere around there about people who don't confess him?
Yep, right afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Whoever denies me before men, I will also deny him before my Father who is in heaven.
Maybe that's the erasure.
Maybe. I don't know. Now, like I said, you got my head's all.
I know.
It's all spinning.
Well, and Paul says in Philippians, he says, help these women who've shared my struggle in the cause of the gospel, together with Clement also and the rest of my fellow workers whose names are in the book of life. They're in. They're just in. Whose names are not going to be erased from the book of life.
Yeah.
Peter's just doubling down on his. I'm just going to keep giving you, messing you up over here.
I know. I'm just going to. Yeah. Okay. So
we don't know how Jesus does his accounting.
Yeah,
okay?
He's just dumping salt in the wounds over here.
Right. We're just stirring the pot up. We got to wrestle about this stuff now.
Yeah.
And so now we get to the church. So we got Thyatira, we got Sardis, now we got Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, brotherly.
Okay.
What is that? Brotherly
It's
love?
Brotherly love.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He says to the angel of the church in Philadelphia, write, He who is holy, who is true, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, and who shuts and no one opens, says this.
I would have no earthly idea what that means.
Key of David.
Yeah, we may end up doing like a whole episode on the key of David because
it's a lot there.
It relates directly to the keys to death and Hades.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
From the descendant of David.
It's
that
the
Jesus
same.
had.
Yeah. Okay, so if we want to just dabble in the rabbit trail real
So
quick.
they would know about the key of David.
Yes.
Yes, because it's in Isaiah.
Okay.
And I'll show you where it is in Isaiah. It happens in Isaiah 22, I believe it is. Let's get to Isaiah 22. Yep, 22:22 is where it is.
Oh.
And this is part of this kind of song poem kind of thing.
Huh.
Okay, so he's if you go back to verse 15, he says, "Thus says the Lord God of hosts, come go to this steward, to Shebna, who is in charge of the royal household." And he goes on and gives all these instructions to Shebna. And he says, in verse 20, he says, "Then it will come about in that day that I will summon my servant Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and I will clothe him with your tunic and tie your sash securely about him. I will entrust him with your authority, and he will become a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. Then I will set the key of the house of David on his shoulder. When he opens, no one will shut. When he shuts, no one will open." And then he says, "I will drive him like a peg in a firm place, and he will become a throne of glory to his father's house." It's a deliverer.
Yeah.
It is.
And hang on him all the glory of the Father's house.
Yes, exactly. And if you want to, I mean, just like I say, you got to go all the way down a big old rabbit hole to get there. But the key to death and Hades and the key of David are interlinked, and they're not. There's just two ways of saying the same thing for different reasons.
Yeah.
Because this is the key to basically the heavens and the earth and the underworld, having the authority. "I'll lay on him the king of David." That means kind of like when Jesus said to his disciples, "Whatever you bind in heaven, whatever you loose in heaven."
Yep.
You know, it's that kind of idea. Give him the power to do this, and what I say goes.
Yep.
When I say open, it opens, and when I say shut, it closes.
Yep.
That's just like absolute.
No one can go against
So it's this deliverer figure from the line of David that has this kind of authority, and it's been given to a person, and so I'm feeling good about this one. If I'm in Philadelphia, I'm going like, yes, we got a good one.
Yeah, all that introduction, he says, says this.
Yeah.
So here it is. It's very simple. This is a very short letter. You guys are killing it. It says, "I know your deeds. Behold, I have put before you an open door, which no one can shut." Now, this is an opportunity. I put before you an opportunity. It's very similar to when Paul used to say, "And a door was opened in, what was it, Macedonia?"
Macedonia.
Yeah, A couple of other times he mentions that. It's an opportunity to fulfill the calling of God. It says, "No one could shut, because you have a little power, and have kept my word, and have not denied my name."
Yeah.
Now this is a contrast, right?
Yeah.
So all these other churches had a lot of power.
So you got a little bit.
And they did goofy stuff. This church has a little power. They've done good.
Because
kept his name. They're not corrupted by power.
That's exactly right. So here we come up again with the synagogue of Satan.
So is it possible to have a lot of power and not be corrupted?
Absolutely. It is absolutely possible.
Well, I love this verse 9. It's awesome.
I know. "Behold, I will cause those of the synagogue of Satan, who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them to come and bow down at your feet, and to know that I have loved you." This is a loaded verse.
Very much so.
I mean, it is absolutely loaded. If we want to go to Isaiah, back to Isaiah 60, this is, I'm not going to linger on this too long, but you got to see this, because it'll blow your mind. If you go to 60, verse 14, it's one of three passages in Isaiah that have the same kind of theme. It says, "And the sons of those who afflicted you will come bowing to you, and all those who despised you will bow themselves at the soles of your feet, and they will call you the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel." So who's he talking about there?
The Messiah.
He's talking about, he's talking about the Israelites, like the nation of Israel. Those foreign nations that defeated you are going to come and bow down in front of you. Okay, so then you go back to 49:23.
Isaiah still?
Yeah, Isaiah 49:23. And you see, there it is. Almost there. You see, "And kings will be your guardians, and their princes your nurses. They will bow down to you with their faces to the earth and lick the dust of your feet. And you will know that I am the Lord. Those who hopefully wait for me will not be put to shame." Once again, talking about Israel. We're kind of on the same track. And then you go to 45:14. It says, thus says the Lord, the products of Egypt and the merchandise of Cush and the Sabaeans, men of stature, will come over to you and will be yours. They will walk behind you. They will come over in chains and they will bow down to you. They will make supplication to you. Surely God is with you and there is none else, no other God. Okay, so here we go. 3 passages. Prophet Isaiah prophesying that, when everything is restored, then everybody's going to come bow down to Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you think about Israel as the people of God, right? What is he saying here? He's saying, they say they're Jews, but they're not. So who are Jews?
Right.
I mean, who are the people of God now?
The Israelites, isn't it?
All believers.
It's
Just Gentiles.
Jews and Gentiles.
The Christians. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's believing Jews and Gentiles.
Gotcha.
Together are the people of God. So what's happened here is and John is perfectly okay doing this because he's saying, okay, that was not about it was not about an ethnic group. It was not about a particular identification. In fact, my best friend Michael Heiser says God is not concerned about an area the size of New Jersey.
Yeah.
He's not concerned about New Jersey because New Jersey hadn't been invented yet. So it's the most important thing out of the prophecies. Jesus would allude to this, and now John is coming right out and saying it. The only one who gets to claim this promise in Isaiah are the ones who are actually the people of God.
Yeah.
And when he talks about the synagogue of Satan, you remember those were the Jews that were ratting out their own people.
Yep.
Which is against their own law, which is what they're supposed to be keeping and imposing upon everybody else. So he says, no, this is the synagogue of Satan. They say they're Jews and are not, but here's the key. He says, I'm going to make them to come and bow down. And then they will know that I have loved you. That is covenant language.
Yep.
This is like, okay, now who's the Jews now?
Right.
And by definition, then, who are the Gentiles now? The Jews have made themselves into Gentiles.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have, in persecuting these Christians, they have forsaken, and rejecting the Messiah.
Yeah.
That was telegraphed to them, their whole, for thousands of years.
They put themselves out of the temple.
Isn't there a bunch that still reject him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Judaism in particular
Is still waiting
is still
for
waiting
their
for their Messiah. Yeah. But he says, you forfeited your status as the people of God, and you actually now put yourself in a position to be opposed by God and to oppose God yourself.
Yep. And if you think about it, it's really simple. It's because they denied Jesus.
Yeah.
They rejected the Messiah, and so now they're persecuting those
who
the
did
people
not
of God.
reject him.
And it's equal too, because if a Gentile today, any random person were to deny Jesus Christ, it's the same principle.
It's rebellion.
It is. It's denying
and
Jesus.
that's exactly what they're doing here.
Yep.
And just like we were talking about, when Adam and Eve sinned. Okay, so we kind of think, oh, poor Adam and Eve, they got deceived, they were innocent, they were naive, but no, you read these commentators and they'll go, no, this was an act of out and out rebellion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the commentators I read said this is the equivalent of Adam and Eve giving God the middle finger.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I get so tired of people talking about that. They victimize Adam and Eve all the time, and they were victims. But when you look at it, their standard was perfect. Their standard was perfect. The only thing they knew was perfect paradise with God.
And they only had one.
They had
condition.
one job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when something else came other than perfect, they chose
And
it.
seduced them.
They chose it.
Out and out seduced them and offered them self-generated power and authority.
Yeah.
And they took it. They absolutely took it, knowing exactly that they were not supposed to have it.
That's right.
So anyway, the insiders are now outsiders, the outsiders are now insiders. That's exactly what Jesus is saying here. Those that say they're Jews and are not, but lie. I will make them to come bow down at your feet. And if you're in Philadelphia right now and you come from a Jewish descent, this just validated your whole whole existence in accepting Jesus as Messiah.
I bet if a Jew read that back in, they'd have been mad.
Oh, they'd thrown him into jail. They would have done what they did with Jesus. They ratted him out.
At this point, the people in Philadelphia are going, "Oh, sweet,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, this you think about how just completely validating this is to this whole congregation. And what we know about Philadelphia is they were undergoing some of the roughest persecution.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're saying, they are not the Jews anymore, and it's coming from the lips of Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. So it says in verse 10, because you have kept the word of my perseverance, and this is where it gets a little confusing, but we're going to clear this up a little bit. Because you have kept the word of my perseverance, I also will keep you from the hour of testing, some say tribulation, that hour which is about to come upon the whole world to test those who dwell upon the earth. Okay, so this is a primary rapture passage, because it says, okay, you've kept my word, then I'm gonna keep you from the tribulation. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna whisk you away, and you let everybody else who lives on the earth deal with that. But this is the word keep, and we have to understand what that word keep means. It says it's the same word. Because you have kept that word, then I will keep. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same word used there. So if it meant to take you out, then you would have to read this, because you have taken my word out.
Yep.
Then I will take you out.
That's right.
It doesn't make sense that way. It's because you have held on to.
Yep, I will hold on to you during this hour.
Because you have kept intact my word and my perseverance.
Yep.
Then I will hang on to you. And then it says, I will keep you, and this word from is an outcome-based word, from the interior out. Mm-hmm. So that means I'm going to keep you, I'm going to protect you through.
Yep.
I will keep you in the tribulation. So it means everybody's going to experience this, and you're going to experience this too. But because you've kept my word, I'm going to keep you. Yeah.
Okay.
And another key sort of code phrase that that's going to come up a lot in the next chapters is those who dwell upon the earth. Mm-hmm. That is a code word for those who are unbelievers.
Yep.
Because their existence, their citizenship is on earth. He's going to talk later about those who dwell in heaven. Yeah. And he's not talking about angels. He's talking about the believers that are on the earth, but their souls, their citizenship is in heaven. Okay. So we're going to see that dichotomy happen back and forth. So this is the first time we see that too. So to test those who dwell upon the earth, that's the unbelievers. And so he says, I'm coming quickly. Now, he said, I'm coming quickly to one of the other churches, didn't he? Mm-hmm. They got scared.
Yeah.
But they're not scared.
These people are like pumped up. Yeah, man. All right.
Because they kind of got their act together.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You got a little bit of power. I've opened a door for you. Don't be afraid to step through it. You're going to go through tribulation. I'm going to keep you. I'm going to hold you fast. I'm coming quickly. Hold fast what you have, in order that no one take your crown. All of this stuff is setting us up for what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful because, once again, crown, white garment. These are all co-rulership images. And you notice that that crowns are never given to angels.
That's right.
Angels never have crowns. What does it say in, 2 Corinthians? 1 Corinthians 6, 1-3. It says, do you not know that you will judge angels?
Yep.
That you will rule over, will be a level higher than the angels? That's what this is saying here. Don't let anybody take your crown. Try and convince you that you are not somebody.
So if somebody's like, when you die, you go to heaven, you become an angel, they're actually like knocking you down a rank.
That's exactly right. That's
like,
exactly right.
Them angels want to be me.
We won't be installed in our proper position of rule until the new heavens and the earth are rejoined together.
Yeah.
But that's the promise of the crown.
Gotcha.
So here's the encouragement to them. He says, he who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God. Where's the temple in the New Jerusalem? Spoiler alert, there is none.
I was going to say.
It says God is the temple.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
it specifically says there is no temple in the city because God is the temple. So if you're going to be a pillar in the temple, that's like, it's like a term of, like being one with God, like inseparable unity. And here's the other cool thing. Now, Philadelphia was a city that experienced a lot of earthquakes as well, but they weren't as severe, but they had them all the time.
Right.
So they were always skittish. Like the ground shakes a little bit and they go like, oh no.
They're just nervous.
And they're living, they're not living in, fortified buildings, stuff like that. So they just walk around nervous all the time. Yeah. And so when he says pillars, That's a good word to them.
Yeah.
And he will not go out from it anymore. You have a permanent residence. You'll never have to, like when the earthquake happens, you'll never have to like start building your house all
rebuild,
over. Yeah. And not go out from it anymore. And I will write upon him, here it is, the name of my God, the name of the city of my God, the new Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and my new name. Okay. All of those are just one thing. They're not four separate things.
Right.
It's just all one bundle. And what he's saying basically is, well, if you don't have the mark of God, then you're going to have the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
So he's like quadrupling down on this thing.
I will
You're gonna have
quadruple seal you.
My name, the name of my city, the name of, it's just like in my new name, and so he's just like lavishing this sense of security upon them because they're very insecure people.
So people of Philadelphia are going,
Yeah.
Oh, think about, they've listened to 5 letters before their own.
now they're like, you're up, Laodicea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You like the way that went?
And now we get to our favorite, right? Okay.
People of Philadelphia are going,
And see, then this probably creates some false hope in Laodicea because they're like, hey, after that, maybe we're on the right side of the tracks here.
Well, and honestly, I'll tell you from the critique that they get, they think they're fine.
Yeah.
They absolutely think they're fine because Jesus has to break them all the way down.
Yeah.
In order to begin to even begin to build them back up again. So, we want to get down to Laodicea just to give you a little background because this background is going to be really important in Laodicea.
About their water.
And not only their water, but we're going to find out. Come on now. No, this one's not syncing up as
talking about their
quickly as the others.
history.
Okay, so situated on the bank of the river Lycus, it's a absolute sophisticated place of commerce and administration. We know that it was a banking center, very well known. They manufactured clothing and woolen carpets made especially from the glossy black wool of sheep reared locally.
Yeah.
Glossy black wool. That sounds fascinating.
And it was the only place with black wool, correct?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's because of their soils.
Wasn't
it? I thought it was. No,
It might
on the
be.
sheep. I think it was something about the soil that turned the sheep's wool black.
Could be. And do we have black sheep? Like legit black sheep? I mean,
I don't know that I've seen any.
I'd spend a lot of time acting like a black sheep.
Yeah.
Nah.
But anyway, but then it also had a medical school and produced medicines, notably an eye ointment made from a pulverized rock in the area.
Yep.
So that is, kind of the setting there. And this is their greeting. He says to the angel of the church in Laodicea, right? The Amen. Why does he start it that way? Pat, any ideas there?
The Amen. I have no idea.
Well, Amen, we know, means so be it.
So the men of so be it.
May it be so. In other words, he's saying, it's me. Whatever I say next is going to be so.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like announcing himself.
Gotcha.
Yeah, see, like I've always struggled with that one. It's not because I disagree with it or anything. It's just so odd hearing the Amen.
I know.
Be there.
But I mean, when you think about it just for a second, you kind of...
It makes sense, for sure.
It does. He says, the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. So if you're wondering if I have any credibility here...
I got it all.
I pretty much created this.
It is. I had to look at I guess agriculture side of me had to know. The black wool of the sheep in Laodicea was the result of careful breeding and then the fertile land around the Lycus Valley.
There you go.
It provided good grazing for the sheep, which allowed for the breeding of a soft, glossy black wool.
Man.
And it actually was unwanted prior to, apparently,
wow,
because the term black sheep
good
said
point.
it would come from that, and
they made rugs out of it, carpets.
Yeah.
So
black sheep.
Yep. So I'm the one who started it all, and you notice, Logan, the word beginning is capitalized.
Yes. Yeah. I love to notice the capitalization.
The beginning, the origin of creation. Says this: I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I would that you were cold or hot. And this is we get this so wrong sometimes because we think, oh yeah, just be honest,
all or nothing.
Yeah. If you're an atheist, I'd rather you be a cold atheist.
Because that's definitely what Jesus wants you to be, right?
Yeah, he's like, you're either a terrible atheist or you are setting the streets on fire for me.
And it's really ridiculous. Cold, hot, and lukewarm relate to the waters around and in Laodicea.
Yeah, and
we've talked about this before.
Imagine that. Context matters.
I know. not everybody who's watching and listening will know this. Hierapolis was nearby, and it was famed for its hot springs. What do hot springs do? They soothe and they heal. Right. They're very medicinal.
Yeah.
They also purify things. Okay, so Colossae, which was also close on the other side, was noted. It was elevated, and it was noted for cold, clear streams of excellent mountain drinking water. Okay, so I did not know this, that the river Lycus apparently was dried up in the summertime. So it was hard to get water. So they piped in with these giant aqueducts, this hot water and cold water. They were the first in the empire to have hot and cold running water. Yeah, exactly. But the problem was, the only material they had that they knew of was lead.
Yep.
So they had these lead pipes and lead aqueducts, and this water would be flowing into the city. But then after a while, it would make people sick.
Yeah.
They'd have to go in and clean these pipes out. And so, and also, it kind of defeated the purpose, because if you pipe in that water from long ways away, the cold water is not cold anymore. And the hot water is not hot anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's flowing through lead, and it's making people sick. And Jesus says, that's what you are to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
You make me sick.
Yep.
Because you're neither soothing and healing,
or refreshing,
or cool and refreshing, and life-giving. You're neither one. You're not just not good for anything. And he says, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth, just like he spit that water out when those lead pipes go bad. And here's why. And he gets into it now. He says, because you say, I am rich and I have become wealthy and have need of nothing, and you do not know, listen to this, that you are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked.
He's going to just keep whacking the axe in there, man.
Other than that, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job.
Philadelphia going,
honestly, he can't find one good thing to say about them.
Yeah.
This is, they've just failed on every, and look at how he says this. He says, okay, so you think you are of high status, but you're wretched.
Yeah.
You're so proud of yourself because you have this sophisticated medicine school, but you're miserable.
Yeah.
You have all the world's banks, but you're poor. You make this super wonderful eye ointment, but you're blind. And you make this fabulous clothing out of glossy black wool.
And you're naked.
Man, and that's so, again, I just keep thinking of the parallels like we've talked on here about.
Many times.
The one, I think of the celebrity or whatever,
absolutely.
and they've got wealth, power, fame, all whole nine yards, and they are miserable.
Yeah, and well, imagine him talking to like a celebrity, and he's like, "Yeah, your last chart-topping song sucked."
Yeah,
right? T Swift, we don't care. He's like, your bank account, garbage. We don't care.
Well, but how about this? You say, we will do anything short of sin to reach people. You say you're reaching people, but you're not.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
You say you're preaching wonderful spirit-filled messages every week, but you're not.
That's right.
Yep.
And I don't want to say this with a shred of judgment in my heart, because we may be sitting here and Jesus might say the same thing to us. You know, it is part of the danger of the human condition.
Yeah.
And you ask the question, you're going to, like with power and everything, is it possible to have a lot of power and use it? It is possible, but it hardly ever really happens.
Yeah.
It's just the natural bent of human nature when we start having that kind of success to sort of turn it in on ourselves.
Uncle Ben said it best.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yep.
I love it.
I think you quoted that one Sunday, did you not? Spider-Man quote. I thought you pulled that on Sunday. One time.
that was a couple years ago, or a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
but I did. I absolutely did say that. Yeah.
I know it wasn't from you seeing the movie though.
No, I heard you say it. So I just copied you. Yeah, absolutely.
So you should have just quoted Logan Hanks.
I should have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not Ben.
No, I'll say. Someone once said.
Can't remember the name.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. So he says, how do we remedy this? He says, I advise you to buy from me gold refined by fire, that you may become rich. So he said that.
I don't think he's talking standard
no,
gold there.
No. Yeah, he's not talking about bullion.
Yeah.
Well, but he's in some ways sort of referencing treasures in heaven, like Jesus was talking about. But basically what he's saying in that little sentence is you're unwilling to go through even a moment of suffering. You've not done any suffering. Your faith isn't even real. Because
And I love that he says refined by fire.
Refined by fire. That's it. That's real gold that's been refined by fire. So that you become rich. White garments, there's that white garment thing again, that you may clothe yourself, and that the shame of your nakedness may not be revealed. That's the same thing that's picked up in 16 that we read just a little bit ago. And eye salve to anoint your eyes that you may see.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's saying, hey, come to me, the source. Remember, I'm the Amen. I'm the beginning of all creation. And I'll give you what's real. And he says this famous verse, behold, I'm standing at the door and I'm knocking. If anyone hears my voice, and that's the whole funny thing about it is, here's my voice. It's not that here's the knocking.
Yep.
Here's my voice. Will you stop doing what you're doing long enough to imagine that I might be speaking to you?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes of the just constant chatter and noise and busyness and programs and all the stuff that we fill our churches with.
Yep.
And he's, this is a typical verse that we use. Oh yeah, this is how you preach the gospel to unbelievers. No, it's just written to Christians.
Yeah.
I'm standing at your door and I'm knocking. If anyone stops long enough to hear my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and I will dine with him and he with me. That's that whole fellowship meal thing. We will actually get to know each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Well, this has me wondering, because back then, a lot of these, they would hear the voice of the Lord.
Yeah.
And, again, we've talked about that before, but it's like, all right, I'm thinking for myself here. Today I had something break down on the combine and I was working on it. While I was working on it, I had an audiobook playing on my phone propped up while I'm working on the thing. When I'm like running the combine, a lot of times I'm listening to an audiobook.
Yeah.
When I'm doing anything, like most people nowadays, we're always listening to something. Are we ever actually in the quiet where we could truly hear the word of the Lord? To where we're there.
That's a good question. It's a really good question. I know that the times when I have been very silent, and I have been, in a place where I have been, either open to listen, or in a, kind of an attitude of praise, or maybe going through something difficult. Every time I've stopped long enough, God has absolutely spoken to me.
Yeah,
it could be an impression, it could be an emotion, it could be that voice that we've talked about.
Yeah.
But listen to this from Isaiah again.
Smart guy.
55. Ho. Everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and you who have no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Why do you spend money for what is not bread, and your wages for what does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and delight yourselves in abundance. And he says, incline your ear and come to me. Listen that you may live.
All right.
That's just exactly what you were talking about.
Listen, yep.
Yeah. So that's really what he's getting at here. Come to me. You don't have to have money, but buy stuff that actually really works.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you get rid of your water slide baptismal, And so then he gives them the promise and he says, he who overcomes, I will grant to him to sit down with me on my throne. That's a big deal. He's basically just sort of coming right out and saying what he's been hinting at in all these other ones, but he's just laying it out there. Yeah. And I think when he starts in verse 20 with, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock," I think this is his compassionate, kind invitation. Like he's done being mad.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, I'm right here.
Yep.
I'm at your door. I'm knocking. Just hear my voice. Open the door. Come and we'll eat together." He says, "If you overcome, I'll grant to you to sit down with me on my throne, as I also overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne." In the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's
right
what
there
we
is
get.
Jesus telling you, you will be a co-heir with me.
Yeah, co-ruler. Yeah.
Well, and it's hopeful to me too, because all of these letters, all these churches, even when they're as bad as some of them are being, he ends pretty much every one of them with telling them how they
Fix
can
it.
make things right with him. And it, like none of them does he end and be like, "There's no hope, you're dead to me."
Yeah.
You
Good
know?
luck in hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this being, the whole letter to the whole churches, like we're included with this, and the churches that we know are included with this. The church worldwide is included with this. How are we supposed to, like we read all 7 of these letters, and we see goods and we see bads and we see mixtures of both. There's 2 that are only good, and there's 1 that's not good at all. And we see, what's some common threads? We see arrogance, we see neglect, we see, just laxness.
Yeah.
We see tolerance of bad doctrines that just sort of sneak their way in, and we just don't talk about them. All this stuff. I mean, how do you think? Like, I mean, we have the context of our own church, right? So, does all of this apply to us, or do we just find ourselves in a different church's place from time to time?
I think it all applies to us.
Yeah.
The reason why I do is because this is to the church, right?
Yeah.
Who is the church? We are the church. Yeah. It's not Holly Grove. It's not a building.
No, it's everybody.
We are the church, right? Yeah. And so depending on the member, you will find yourself in all or some of these situations. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think this is where we have to have that self-evaluation, back to what Jesus was saying, take the log out of your own eye. We have to get back to that, to our own motive. For me, what rings true for me the most on this has always been return to your first love. Because like when I first got saved, I will never forget it. It was 3 things, 3 basic principles that I was like, okay, this is what I have to have, is prayer, the word, and worship. Is those 3 things. And I not only do I need to do them, I love to do them. I love to pray. I love to read scripture, and I love to worship. I just love those things. And if I stay there, 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty much solid.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes my prayer life suffers. Sometimes my study life suffers. Sometimes, I just don't feel it when I'm worshiping. I mean, sometimes I find myself in these situations.
Yep.
So what do we do as a church when we find ourselves in one or more of these situations?
I would say hold each other accountable and be honest when we find ourselves in these situations with each other, and come together and work together to overcome.
I think to some of our, elders meetings and then worship team meetings, things like that. And we've done that a number of times, and it might be time to do it again. We basically said, you know what? We have to admit to ourselves that we've gotten into a routine and we're stale.
Yeah.
We're just stale. We're the ones leading, and we're not. We're trying to lead, but we're in a little way we're going through the motions.
Yeah.
We're not dead.
Yep.
But I think back to when he says, "Strengthen that which remains."
Mm-hmm.
What you got right now? Just take the good things and run with it. And, we always ride that fine line between, it's good to have some sameness. It's good to have some familiarity, but it's not good to have a rut. Right. That you're just going through the motions. And so, we've had those kinds of conversations, and same thing with, I don't know, in all kinds of areas of the church. You've got to be willing to, listen to what the Spirit's saying to the churches.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's really weird is I'm always weary about people who give me church answers.
Oh, I know.
When I'm like, so how have you been, man? And people say, oh, I'm just blessed. I was like, man, come on, dude. Like, who you fooling?
Yeah.
How are you doing? I'm genuinely concerned. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, how was your day? Has it been good? Has it been bad? Like, or like we talk about this with you all the time. Like, how many people know Peter, or do they know pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't see Peter as a person; they see him just as a
Yeah.
pastor.
They may not want to know me.
You know what
Well,
I
that's
mean?
where I tell Marcy, I'm like, Pat and I are fortunate.
Yeah.
You know, we get to peel the curtain back a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I tell this story all the time. When I first started coming here, Peter asked me, he's like, man, we need to go get lunch.
Yeah.
And I don't think he expected me to say, yeah, let's do it. Let's go tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like
Peter
that
was
quick.
like, dadgummit.
You know, like, yeah.
You notice I didn't say breakfast.
Right? And like I had in my mind, I'm like, okay, when we go to lunch, I'm gonna grill them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna grill them. I'm gonna see what this guy's really about, type stuff, you know. And 3 hours later,
It was 3 hours.
you know, we
Yeah.
sat at lunch forever, and I'm like, okay, like I am completely comfortable with coming to church here. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm on board. You know, but it was true. Like, and it wasn't me trying to see what was wrong with Peter. It was me getting my insecurities out of the way.
Yeah.
Right, and you know, once again, it's breaking bread, man. It's just, you know, let's dig out most of our cards and put them on the table and kind of see where we are, and it was really good. So I want to close this down with one more difficult passage. I just want to drop this in here. I just want to leave you here.
Gonna leave us with the bomb.
Because we were talking about, you know, names being erased from books of life and things like that. Okay.
Here you go.
Logan
right.
Hanks erased.
So this is Romans 11.
oh
This
God,
is Paul talking.
Going to Romans.
And yeah, he says, okay, but if some of the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive, were grafted in among them, and became partaker with them of the rich root of the olive tree. So who's he talking about here?
Jesus.
He's talking about Jews and Gentiles.
Oh, the olive tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not talking about the vine. He's talking about, he says, he's talking to Gentiles, and he's saying, but if some of the branches were broken off, now that's, you know, Israelites, Jews who did not believe in the Messiah, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were part of the olive tree, and they were broken off.
Okay.
And he explains it. He says, if some of the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive, were grafted in among them and became partaker with them of the rich root of the olive tree, do not be arrogant toward the branches, the ones that were broken off.
Yep.
But if you are arrogant, remember that it is not you who supports the root, but the root supports you.
Yep.
You will say then, branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. Quite right. They were broken off for their unbelief. But you stand by your faith, your belief. Do not be conceited, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, neither will he spare you.
Ouch.
And so my buddy Michael Heiser read that the other night, a couple nights ago, and he said, I don't know what election people do with that.
Yeah.
Because the question was Israel elect? I'd say yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody was
People.
elect.
Yep.
Yeah. And so now you have unelect. But then he says, if they do not continue in their unbelief, they will be grafted back in. For God is able to graft them back in again.
So if you weren't, that just,
So you're elect, now you're non-elect.
but now you're
you could
back
be
elect again. Yeah.
So you're selectively elected.
So then you're put in the primary.
Selective
Or
elective.
electively selected.
Yeah.
or delectably elected.
Wow.
Or electrically. Yeah, no, let's not.
Electrum.
Anyway, that doesn't actually necessarily solve our dilemma, but it does give us something to chew on, because this whole idea of names being erased and all this stuff, he's really talking about what we call faith, which is one way that we understand faith is believing loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
That you allow that Holy Spirit work to be done in you, and then your loyalty stays with Jesus.
Yep.
It doesn't go anywhere else. And I really think that in some of these letters to churches, he's really calling them to task about, where is your loyalty? Where is your believing loyalty? You're tolerating Jezebel. You're tolerating Balaam. You're allowing all these things to Nicolaitans. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't know.
I agree 100%.
So next week we're going to solve the whole problem of election and predestination. But it is just something to think about as you go along your way. But thank you for coming along this little jaunt with us through these 4 letters. What'd you think, Pat?
Oh man, like I said, this book, it's one of my favorite to study because it's so hopeful.
It is.
It
absolutely is.
Like, we always think about these 7 churches, what they did wrong, right? But Logan nailed it. It's at the end of them. He's like, hey, here's how you fix it.
Yeah.
Here's how you
time.
fix it.
Yeah.
Let's turn it around.
That's exactly right.
I love it.
That's exactly right.
And like we said before, nobody talks about that, or they don't. The normal thing about Revelation is never. I don't ever feel like it gets shown his redemption offer. Basically,
well, that's what it is. It's really a book of redemption.
Yeah,
It completely is. And correct judgment.
yeah,
Fair judgment. Giving people what they asked for.
Yep.
And I just feel like, John is just speaking, Jesus is speaking through John to these Christians and saying, hey, you're on the right track.
Yep.
You really are. Because the vision sets up the church letters. The vision plus the church letters sets up the next part, which is going to be the throne room.
yeah.
And that's when things for those Christians who are listening would have gotten really excited.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, because it is so filled with anticipation. It's like, man, God is really going to.
Yeah. This is the image of already but not yet.
Yeah.
It's the image of it.
He's going to settle it. And the way that these cycles are put together, it's like God is settling it right now. And he's going to settle it at the end of all things.
Yeah.
And it's sort of pointing back to, remember how God settled it back then? It's talking about the Exodus and the Red Sea and all this stuff. He's settling it now, right now, for you. And then he will settle it again. So there you go. Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for hanging in there with us. Leave us some comments. Go and give us a couple of reviews. Get us up to 25 each. Yeah, that gets us started.
Come on, we want some comments. We want some feedback on here.
Have we got any emails?
No, we have not gotten any emails yet. I've gotten a couple of, like advertisement emails. That's been about it.
I'm going to start emailing you under anonymous.
There you go. There you go.
Pat and I are just going to pretend to be. I'm going to have a burner email for it.
Well, and we know that especially in these next several chapters, you're going to have a lot of questions.
Yes.
And so I want that to be a place you can go to drop your questions, and we will answer them on air. We might even do a live session where we answer them live.
We're going to bring you
go
on
to
here and
RevReb at hollygrovechurch.com. Leave us an email and say all kind of nice things about us, and we will read your email on the air.
We will.
We absolutely will.
And we will tell everyone who wrote it.
Only if you say really good stuff.
Yes. Yes.
All right. You guys have a wonderful day, wonderful morning, wonderful afternoon, evening, and just join us back next week.
Yep. See y'all then.